Hey, you, welcome back to the Pausecast. I wanted to talk today about a situation I had with a client yesterday, and I thought it'd be really relevant to bring to a bigger audience where the situation is as follows. So there was this corporate leader, and she felt like she had been in a bunch of changes at work. The work had been changing. There was a reorg. There were other responsibilities now on her plate. And she'd actually just come back from family medical leave, taking care of her parents. So much change. There was so much going on. And who here has been in a situation where you've felt the turbulence? Maybe you were gone for maternity, or you had parental leave, or just even a vacation where you come back and things seem a little different, or there's been some changes, or maybe you've been right there all along, every step of the way, and you've been part of those changes taking place. I think change is very normal, and we all know that saying, the only thing that's constant is change. And I think as we are now rolling into 2024, and our worlds are to equip ourselves to be dynamic and roll with the punches and go with the flow, but also take care of ourselves. And today that's our topic. How do you manage change when things are always changing? Okay, let's get into it. One of the things that I think was interesting about my friend here, we met yesterday in this client situation, was she was very willing, as many of us are, to follow the change and work with what was new, but she also felt that challenge and struggle of, how do I fit in? How do I fit in, and where do I belong? And how do I change with what's required? How do I know what I want, or what I'm going to be able to prioritize? A couple of things that she had been feeling was that she didn't have a high level picture, a strategic viewpoint of what the new landscape looked like. I think a lot of times as leaders, we're delegating down and we are giving out what we need to be done, but we just forget to help people with context. The why. Why are we doing it like this? What's going on? And when we remind people and point them back to the North Star, the vision, then they're on board. It's so much easier to get traction and influence others when we're inspiring from that space, as opposed to, hey, let's do these 10 things that are now needed, and thank you, and here you go. That's a very different story than, hey, let's review what we're doing and why. Takes maybe 1 or 2 minutes, could be one slide in a meeting, and then help people, bring them along with what's needed. And so that was one thing that we discussed, was that we needed to have that big picture. So we also talked about, it's good to have that big picture, and it's also good to have that vision of you. Who do you want to become as you're helping out this new change and going with the flow and in the management? I think that that's very important. So many times we forget that we need a vision for ourselves. I know I've talked about this in a few different episodes, but vision is the North Star for you. And we're so busy talking about the company, our team, what we're doing, the plan, the KPIs, whatever we have, we forget to bring ourselves into it. So right now, today, ask yourself, do I have a vision for myself? And in this particular case, I'll keep going back to this conversation I helped co-create a vision with my client where she was open and connected to go with the flow. And this was a very different contrast than what she had just mentioned to me, which was she felt like she was up against a brick wall. Who here has felt like you're up against a brick wall? You want to do something different, and yet here's this brick wall. And so what I recommended was that she steers away from that brick wall. When we tell ourselves what's in the way or what the resistance is, because that's the resistance, right? There's this big thing in the way, and I don't know how to get around it. In her case, she called it a brick wall. When we keep telling ourselves the problem, in this case, the brick wall, we're telling and reinforcing a story, the story in our heads. And that story isn't serving you. In this case, it definitely wasn't serving her because she was up against this brick wall, and she's telling herself she's up against the brick wall. And so how do I get around it? It's clear there's a brick wall here. And the next thing you know, our brains are shut down. We're like, yeah, there's a brick wall. So my invitation to you, which was the same for her, was what if you steered away and took attention off that brick wall and that story you have, whatever your story is, and you create your new story, the story, which is your new empowering vision. Instead of a brick wall, what if you now are open and prepared so that you're equipped for going with the flow? Now, that is a very different feeling and a very different mindset and mental energy, is it not? Than I got a brick wall here. Isn't that interesting? And all it is a subtle shift. These aren't huge changes. These are subtle 1 degree subtle shifts, but they make a huge difference because our whole mindset goes where our attention flows. We've all heard that saying, right? Where the mind goes, attention flows, and our actions flow from there. That's my invitation to all of you today, is to think about what is your resistance in your story? What is it that you keep telling yourself? And you might not even notice you're telling yourself because you hear it so much. It's just kind of that stories, quote unquote, that you have. I know in my case, I'm bringing this back to me now, because that's what we do, is we bring it back to yourself as you hear about these different things, because it's all applicable, right? Even though we're kind of hearing about this person. In my case, my story was, I don't have enough time. I continuously tell myself this in my past. I don't have enough time. I don't have any time. How do I have time to fill in the blank? Meditate, go do this thing I want to do, and so on and so forth. And so my new story was, I have enough time. And that was just a subtle shift, right? But it's so big, guys. It's so big. The empowering belief goes from I'm not enough. That's the limiting belief of myself, which is really behind the story that's on the surface of I don't have time, to I have enough. So I am enough. And how important is that? That's so, so exciting and important to notice. All right, so let's take a big step and a zoom out view here of everything I've just talked about. We've got a lot of different layers here. One is a change. There's lots of changes going on. And it is important to be in the flow. So notice where you are in that changes. You feel super reactionary. Are you just trying to steer clear of those rocks in the river that you're going full speed ahead on? Maybe, how would it be if you had a vision where you are in the flow and equipped for whatever comes next? That could be a great vision. First person, present tense. So there's change, there's helping to know what your vision is, helping to be and stay strategic. So asking other people, what are their priorities? Like, what is it that you're working on and focused on, so that I'm aware of this and I can help you? That's such a big thing. And then we have the story, whatever it is that we're sharing and telling ourselves in the mind. I know there's a concept and a tool that I've used called the noble story. That's coming to mind. That is from my training in the Beyond EI certification and my friend Matt in his world of noble story. I'm forgetting Matt's last name right now, but if you check it out, you might be able to learn more. And it's really just shifting your story from whatever the story is to what you think is good. And I think you might be able to know something different. Matt Taylor, that's who it is. Matt Taylor, Noble Story. Thank you, Matt, for that lovely tool that is so helpful. What's your noble story if it wasn't the one that you're telling yourself, which is maybe keeping you locked? The more we tell our stories, the more we reinforce it. And then what is your vision for yourself? And how do you change that? So you can start today. You can start by telling yourself, writing it down, saying it out loud. This is the story. My new story is that I am open and prepared and go with the flow, as my client lovingly shared and told herself. And I could just see her whole demeanor change. She looked relaxed. We were on Zoom. She looked relaxed. She was calmer. She was smiling because she had a plan. And that's what the vision is. It's a plan. It's not where you are today, but it's your new way of being. How do you get there? And that's what it's all about, everybody. All of you beautiful corporate leaders out there, We can do it, but we need these tools. We need to raise our emotional intelligence, and it starts with these little things, but they're actually really big. And I hope that this has been a helpful anecdote for you today. Think about your world and what could be your new story, and how do you get out of the way of this old story, the world of the same old that you continue to tell yourself, because that is not serving you. The more we do it, but we don't even realize we're doing it, like my client did. And it's important to remember. Thank you for listening today. And if you need help with your story, if you're interested to shift things and you've tried and tried, but maybe it hasn't worked, or you're not quite clear on how to do this, let me know. I have so many tools for you. All you need to do is reply back. Let me know on the podcast. You can leave me a message. You can leave it in audio version, literally saying something. You can reply it in YouTube. You can reply if you got this via email or you're hearing it. Ultimately, I can help you. And I would love to support you, because you're not alone and no one can do it alone. We're shifting big things that we've had habits along usually for decades with. And this is my experience and my expertise as an executive coach, where I know, because I burned out of Google, I know firsthand the stories I told myself were not serving me. I just felt like a failure, and I kind of kept stuck in that. So, hey, there's hope for all of us, and it doesn't have to be this way. Thank you for listening today. I am so excited to support you. And here's to you and where you are going with change and your new vision and your new story.